Hello everyone and welcome to another high elo game of Age of Empires. Today yours truly is breaking in a pair of new loafers for a very important client meeting, so you might hear the tippy tappy of my toes underneath the microphone, hopefully not, as we sit down to watch Sitaux playing as the Portuguese in blue, getting ready to take on TheViper playing as the Armenians in yellow. Now while the players herd their herdables, explore their immediate surroundings and try to get their butts up to Feudal Age ASAP, oink oink. Not a bad time for us to take a look at the Civ matchup that we are going to be watching today. Now, the Portuguese, a civilization whose economic bonuses allow it to take advantage of its very powerful gunpowder units. To get an early game boost to your economy, their foragers also generate wood while they collect berries. Where are those berries, by the way? Okay, Sitaux has not seen them yet. All Portuguese units cost 20% less gold. All of their technologies are researched faster, except for going up to the next age. And once you hit Imperial, you do have access to a unique structure called the Feitoria. This is basically an economic building that auto-generates all 4 resources at the same time, but it does take up 20 population space. Now, using these bonuses, these features, the Portuguese can field a pretty darn impressive gunpowder army, since they have access to every single non-unique gunpowder unit in the game on both the land and the sea. Although sea, maybe on Arabia, not so relevant. All these gunpowder units can be upgraded to fire more accurately at moving targets and increase the speed of their projectiles. Think ballistics, but for gunpowder units, which is pretty much nightmare fuel for most of us. And by the way, this upgrade, called the Arquebus upgrade, does strongly benefit their unique unit, the Organ Gun. This is a gunpowder unit that fires 5 or 6 bullets in a small spread designed to hit multiple targets at once. Does come with a small attack bonus against skirmishers, buildings, and even infantry. Infantry might be bad news bears, because on the bottom right of our map, we've got the Viper pulling in his Piggly Wigglies, playing as the Armenians, primarily an infantry civilization. Now, to start with, all Armenian infantry come with extra line of sight, and are almost all of them, I should say, are available 1 age earlier. What does that mean? It means spearmen in the Dark Age, long swordsmen and pikemen in feudal, and two-handed swordsmen, champions, and even halberdiers in the Castle Age. Although remember, those upgrades are pretty damn expensive. Now, those same infantry units, except for the spearman line, can be upgraded to get a big plus 30 boost to their HP, and their first unique unit is the Warrior Priest. This is a unit that blurs the line between Man of War and Man of the Cloth, being an infantry unit that can actually heal friendly units and gather relics while kicking ass. Now, to support their slower moving bipedal army on the field of battle, the Armenians can field a second unique unit, the Composite Bowman, or as my American friends would say, the Composite Bowman, a foot archer whose attack ignores enemy armor of, I should say, all enemy land unit armor except for siege. Now, in order to help the Armenians get their military-industrial complex up and running, they do come with a few nifty features. To start with, every church that they build, every fortified church, does come with, pardon me, the first fortified church comes with a free relic, their mule carts. Are 25% cheaper. Still not sure why it gives you the horse sound if it's a donkey. And by the way, speaking of mule carts, their techs are 40% more effective, which does mean more productive Armenian miners and lumberjacks. So those are the two civilizations we've got. The Viper, I think, a bit of an uphill, no pun intended, with this big hill over here. A bit of an uphill Civ matchup, I would say, if Sitaux takes this to late game. If you're an infantry Civ, the last thing you want to be facing is hand cannoneers with their ridiculous plus 10 attack bonus against infantry. You don't want to deal with organ guns with their plus, I believe, 2 attack bonus against infantry, if I'm not mistaken. The last thing you want if you're basically an infantry Civ is to face a bunch of gunpowder units, and then you throw on top of that the fact that those gunpowder units can track you down and kill you as you move with the Arquebus upgrade. Probably not fun. So I'm assuming, I shouldn't assume, that this is where I usually make about 1 million mistakes casting, that the Viper is going to want to take this into mid-game and no later. But we'll see. I've been wrong before. I probably will be wrong again. And, this is the welcome to the life of a human being, making the wrong calls left, right, and center. Both players heading up to the Feudal Age. The Viper about 20 or so seconds ahead of his opponent. When you add in the 2-second TC idle time, explains why the Sitaux is going up with 1 extra villager, 19 to 18. Let's remove the fog of war. Let's take a look at the bases, because Sitaux's base, I mean, for those of us who like to wall, this might not be walled in. No, it looks like it is fully with this. What is Bush B? There you go. it actually is walled in. Nice little crescent here, walling in the forward portion of his base. Gold to the back. I like that. Everything else is pretty darn crappy. Secondary stone off to the right. Primary gold and, pardon me, primary stone, and then secondary and tertiary gold. All three of them in the incredibly forward position. So I might revise my original love of this base, just because it looks like, even though he can wall this in pretty nicely, and he has here to the right, now he's going to start walling here to the left. Not a lot of resources here to wall in. Oh, pigs. Got to be careful. Viper tries to sneak in, maybe kill a pig or two. At the same time, he's now exploring and finding out where his opponent is, having gone the completely wrong way to the south. Let's take a look at the Viper's base, or pardon me, Sitaux is discovering where his opponent is. Primary gold and primary stone. I like it kind of to the rear, but also extra gold here to the left, extra gold to top right, and extra stone in the forward position. Viper also has a nice coverage, by his force. I'm wondering why he decided to take the low ground here. Why not take the high ground? In Age of Empires, if you're not familiar with the mechanics of elevation and high ground, low ground, if you're on the high ground and you're firing down, you get an extra 25% damage and basically 25% extra defense, although I don't expect the house to fire back on any unit. But even melee units here will have the high ground. So I'm a little confused as to why the Viper didn't just wall in this way and continue to take the high ground, but I'm not going to second guess the Viper. That is a recipe for getting a lot of nasty comments and just being dead wrong. Sitaux being very careful. He wants that Spearman HP to be as low as possible before he engages with the Horsies because of this massive attack bonus against those scouts. He does not want to risk it too early. What's the HP like? Pretty much identical HP. It looks like Sitaux's Spearman does have one extra HP, but now a second one is being added to the mix, so Sitaux has to get the hell out of here. 3 scouts, probably enough to take this, but 2 of them will probably die, and I don't think Sitaux is looking for that kind of engagement at the moment. Viper heads back, perhaps expecting some counter attacks here. For now, doesn't really see anything, is probably kicking himself, saying, hey, I could have these scouts, these 3 scouts on the other side of the map, and here we go. There we go, the good old Age of Empires train. You got a spearman chasing a spearman, being chased by a bear. It's a real bear market. ... Look at him. Okay, stock market jokes aside, the first death of the game is unfortunately a Gaia death. That being said, ooh, we might actually have a player death. Oh, but no, the Viper's a little bit too quick. 3, 4 scouts here. Man, sometimes hard. I wish they would deal with the clumping. The pathing is one thing, but the clumping is another. Oh, the Viper notices in the last second, does save 1 villager, saves a second villager, and Sitaux. Oh, he is circling like a hungry shark. Villager count identical. Army counts very, very similar. Army compositions very similar. Both players with 4 scouts. What's the HP like? Ooh, the Viper's taken a little bit of damage, and so he's down 11 HP. We'll see whether that matters. If he gets the high ground, it won't matter. If he gets the low ground, it'll matter significantly. Weaker scout here on the right has been held in, I guess, reserves, but then added back into the mix. Still no deaths. Archers, pretty much 2 archers still stuck inside the archery range. Sitaux does not want to reveal them just yet. And now the dance continues. Now, interestingly enough, the Portuguese do have a pretty darn good foot archer roster. I think they have, ignoring unique techs, they do have, I think, a pristine foot archer line, right? They're just missing heavy cavalry and Parthian tactics. Everything else they get. And so that is pretty darn cool for a gunpowder civilization. Although, I don't know, an entire army composed of ranged is pretty squishy sometimes. Viper trying to find his way in. There is a giant gap here on the left. At the same time, Sitaux is going to try to find his way in. No, never mind. The Viper says enough's enough. Where are your scouts? How come I don't see them? Are they perhaps back in my base? And Sitaux dives in. He notices the gap. Sees the gap, as Dennis from It's Always Sunny would say. And we might have our first kill here. We do have our first kill here. We might have our second kill here. The Viper's scouts are just kind of hanging out in the front of Sitaux's base as he loses a villager, a spearman, and probably another villager. I mean, there's still 114 HP on these scouts. They're still on the high ground. Ooh, but not anymore. Now there's a spearman mixed in here. And if you're not familiar with spearman, plus 15 attack bonus against cavalry. So the Viper's TC actually gets the kill. I've argued this before. It shouldn't count as a TC. It should allocate it to one of the villagers inside the TC. Because unlike a castle, it doesn't actually fire when it's empty. So, you know, take it up with Microsoft. Both players heading up to the Castle Age. Both players again at the almost the exact same time going up to Castle Age. Economic upgrades. The Viper is horse collar ahead. Sitaux peels off one scout and he's going to run straight into 4. So let's zoom out a little bit so we can see this battlefield on the left. The Viper says, I don't need all of my units to kill this one unit of yours. He's trying to trap these 2 scouts on the right while the scout on the left continues to get hounded. Oh, if only the archers had some ballistics upgrades. But we are still in feudal. That does not exist. Maybe one day there'll be a civilization like the Persians getting Parthian tactics in castle, and the Armenians getting basically everything in an age earlier, infantry-wise. Maybe there will be a civ that gets ballistics early. If there isn't already one, maybe my brain has turned into mush. I am working on about 3 hours of sleep. Welcome to having 2 babies under the age of 3. Viper is moving out here with a pretty sizable archer army. Now, the Armenian archers, let me have a think. I mean, I can always look at here, but that feels like a bit of cheating. I don't think they have the, oh my goodness, the thumb ring upgrade. Well, not that that matters right now. My goodness, okay. The Viper had, past tense, the Viper had an archer army. Now he has it no more, as Sitaux's bigger archer army with the high ground, I think, absolutely destroyed and nullified the Viper's entire attack. And now having seen the archers become, or sorry, having seen the archers move forward, not having seen them become crossbowmen, but the Viper responds with skirmishers. So in gunpowder versus infantry has devolved into archer versus archer. And there we go. First fortified church for the Armenians. Take a look on the bottom left of your screen. Immediately, there is a relic inside. Changes the dynamics of every game. Second villager goes down. So the Viper is down 1 vill. And by all accounts, should be ahead 2. But a good little catch here. It was a good little catch. Okay, there we go. Didn't lose anything for it. Looks like there's another animal being activated here. The Viper, for some reason, deletes. Or maybe Sitaux destroyed these 2 houses that were under construction. In any event, we've got a Portuguese army inside the Armenian base. 2 skirmishers. 2 brave, roided, jacked up skirmishers are what is holding this entire army back. I'm very confused as to why Sitaux is running away with so many units. And then I highlight them, I look at their HP, and I am confused no longer, because you know when you're playing against a player like the Viper, he will target down these incredibly weak units. Ballistics for blue, nothing for yellow. He does have +2/+2 on these skirmishers, which together with their armor and together with their attack bonus against archers is enough to shoo this away. Double TC play here for the Viper. Oh, wait a second. The Viper's about to sandwich unless Sitaux rolls the dice and goes left, which he's doing, but now the Viper is going left as well. This crossbow army is in serious trouble. I can't imagine much of these crossbowmen are going to make it home. At the same time, a Portuguese knight is taking on high ground scouts. Welcome to Castle Age versus Feudal Age, maybe even Dark Age. One knight takes out 3 scouts and then gets killed himself by a bunch of skirmishers who are now being attacked by a bear. Non-stop action this game. Looks like another villager bit the dust here. Not quick enough to shove them into the fortified church, but now it's Sitaux's turn to not pay attention as he loses 2 crossbows. Okay, let's zoom out and see what the heck the players are going to be doing, because we are approaching a 25-minute mark of the game. 4 dead villagers for the Viper. He is down still just 1 vill. TC idle time, not much different for both. Another army. Let's see if he sees it. He does see, or he should see. Sitaux bringing back these 3 crossbowmen. Okay, well, the Viper's gone pure skirmishers, 14 of them, 3 monks out on the field. He's gotten 2 relics already. Remember, with the Armenian dynamic of adding an extra relic, it really does introduce 6 relics to the game. Imagine a team game where you have the Aztecs on your team as the Armenian, and you hand them over all 6 relics on the map. Although in team games are generally more than 6, but let's say hypothetically you're in a team game for the sake of my silly example, and there's only 5 relics on the map. You're Armenian, your teammate's Aztec, whose relics generate 33% more gold, and you give them not only the 5 on the map, but the 1 extra one that you were given by the developers. They would have 6 relics for the Aztecs. That would generate as much as 8 relics because of their Civ bonus. Now, you might be wondering, why did I tune into an Age of Empires game where the thumbnail was Portuguese versus Armenians, and the caster, after making so many silly comments, is talking about the Aztecs? Well, I don't really have an answer for you. What I do have is a giant rock-flinging machine that just destroyed a few skirmishers there, and we'll get a few more if they're not careful. Let's keep an eye on the HP, but with one single unit, this is the power of siege. When I said armies that are range versus that are, pardon me, purely range, they're kind of squishy, and this is the reason. This is the squisher. This is the Walter White, I am the one who squishes. And with one unit, he is keeping the Viper's entire army back because of that pancake, while he himself continues running amok. But the Viper with redemption is going to be able to convert. Ouch. Okay, well, he loses 1 monk for 1 mangonel, which means that now Sitaux is kind of stuck here in between 2 rocks / TCs and a bit of a mobile hard way, but it's kind of weak also. Both of these players' units are kind of weak. Sitau's trying to hug the high ground, get as much damage as he possibly can. Will he go for the archers or will he go for the skirmishers? It kind of looks like he's going for the Feudal Age archers, while the skirmishers have an absolute field day. Now, behind this, neither player is really expanding into the middle of the map. Neither player is really being super duper aggressive beyond the aggression that we've seen. Oh, that's so sour. That's so sour for the Viper. Yet another. He's down to 15 dead villagers, only down 6. But my goodness, with his last breath, Sitaux spits. What's the quote from Moby Dick of Captain Ahab as he goes down with the whale? With my last breath, I spit at thee, or something like that. I never remember. I always loved that quote ever since I saw, when I was younger, the Wrath of Khan Star Trek movie, the OG Star Trek with William the Overactor Shatner. And I can never remember, what did Ahab say? Yeah, I think with my last breath, I spit at thee. And this is the kind of stuff that happens with a dead villager that you just love to see it. Just a little tiny kick to the balls as you're leaving, as your archers and crossbowmen all die. A little nudge to your opponent to say, hey, you might get these kills, but they're not free. In any event, let's take a look. What are we working with? Sitaux himself is up to 3 TCs. Both players now ahead only 5 villagers. Army counts are kind of tiny, which is what you would expect when the players have just been at each other's throats for the entire game. Imperial from which TC? Gotta be the back one, right? Yeah, gotta be the back one. Not to sound like Raymond. Definitely the back one. Definitely the back one. Gotta watch Wapner. Gotta watch Wapner. 99 toothpicks. I love this, by the way, from Sitaux. Oops. The outpost. Now, doesn't look like it's very upgraded, but it does give him good vision. This is going to give him vision here to the north, where he'll see if the Viper is pushing through. The Viper, who is currently moving forward with an army, perfectly healthy thanks to these monks. And he is going to run smack dab. Let's see what the Viper sees and see how he reacts to mangonels. He's staggered his units, which is what you want to do when you know your opponent has these rock-throwing machines that can literally change the game in the blink of an eye. Now, the mangonels have to be afraid of the monks, who outrange them by 2. The archer units don't have to be afraid of the mangonels' range, but they have to be afraid of the mangonels' power, because they can attack with the same 7 range as the mangonel. That's what I mean. They obviously should be afraid of the mangonels because of the counter nature of that unit. Sitaux continues production all across the map. Why houses? I guess he doesn't want to spend a little bit of stone. If he was Ethiopian, it'd be no stone at all. But look at Sitau's vision. He is getting more and more line of sight. He's going to be able to see enemies coming from a mile away, and he's going to see the castle going up. Will he take one shot? Will he pull an M&M and take one shot at the castle before backing away? No, he says, I don't have time to shoot and then retreat. And that's probably wise. Had he stopped to attack the castle or the villagers building it, he probably would have lost one or both mangonels. Got another archer scuffle here. Now again, the Portuguese land, oh my goodness, the Portuguese foot archer has absolute perfect upgrades. But nope, thumb ring for these Armenians is pretty rough. Not gonna lie, pretty rough. Somehow this guy took a mangonel shot to the face, but okay. There you go, spit on the grave as the rocks fling onto his dead body. The Viper is retreating. Despite a big center high ground castle, he is retreating. Sitaux's pushing in. He discovers the outpost, loses 2 monks for it, and Sitaux's army is there. This is going to be one of those games where there's just going to be units everywhere. The Viper's a minute and a half away from Imperial, but now he's facing Arbalesters. Luckily for him, Arbalesters still should be careful of engaging against skirmishers. Warrior Priest double kill. Look at that. What a fantastic double shot at the exact same time. Look at him melting into the ground at the exact same time. Now, of course, the Warrior Priest didn't get both kills, just got one, and the archers got the other. So the Viper's clearing up some space. Has he seen any of the other infrastructure? No, but he's smart enough to say, hey, if there's an outpost here, there might be something here. And so he sends a crossbowman back. Will the tower be enough? Again, I question the Viper's placement. Why on the low ground? Why not right here? Why not on the high ground? Arbalesters, what are your upgrades? Fully attack, wise, upgraded. That can't be the right way of saying that. Upgraded fully when it comes to attack. Very little when it comes to armor. And Sitaux, ruffling the feathers of the economy, backs out. Is he going to see that he's stuck? He knows he's stuck here, so he's got to get out. Mule Cart is trying to block him, but oh, just a second too late. Games and shenanigans here by both players as the Viper tries to block these Arbalesters from escaping with the very body of the Mule Cart. Looks like Arbalesters did manage to take out a crossbowman or two, or pardon me, a crossbowman and a spearman, a skirmisher up here. I swear I know my units. And here we go. Here comes the gunpowder. Now, Arquebus, not a cheap upgrade. Not a cheap upgrade at all. Does not have it just yet. And the battle for literal Middle Earth has begun. We have a Treb attacking a house, or is he trying to attack these? I want to follow that Treb ball. Yeah, he's trying to attack the bombard cannons while the bombard cannons are slowly taking down the castle. It looks like the bombard cannons may actually have the high ground. He loses one of the BBCs. At the same time, Arbalester chases that one sneaky villager who will die. Arbalester trying to get some damage done, but not too much they're going to get accomplished here. So, center stage is literally center stage here as we look at the center of the map. Looks like the second BBC died, and a third bombard cannon being the last one left. Pardon me, not the last of us. There's 2 last of us. Viper has blown his entire bankroll of stone repairing this castle. He's got 5 villagers on stone. Every single pebble they bring in, every single brick is going into repairing this castle, tower down. And this is where the Portuguese get real dangerous. That being said, the Viper's army is not big. Siege Engineers is an expensive upgrade. And our Armenian could potentially, if he wanted to, maybe switch into infantry. That would not be a bad idea right now. When you're facing a predominantly archer army, aside from not having squires, or sorry, pardon me, what am I talking about? I'm pardon me. The Armenians have all upgrades. My bad. I was my brain went to the Portuguese for a second, but the Viper's pressing in here. All archer units need to be focused on these bombard cannons. But there's 2 to the left, there's 1 to the north, 2 to the north. Pardon me, 2 of them have died in the center. This is a fantastic trade for the Viper, whose castle is still up. He's got 9 villagers now on stone. He's slowly pressing in. Death of a mining camp doesn't really matter when there's a second one behind this. What the hell was that? Not too sure what the Viper is attacking there as he continues to hound these units. But now our Armenian is with arbalesters. Why not go infantry? The last thing Sitaux, who is housed at 145, is expecting would be 100 HP Ferreter infantry. Now, I'm curious as to why the Viper isn't attacking the bombard cannons. He does have siege engineers. He is under attack from trebuchets, or pardon me, the trebuchets. Why is Sitaux not attacking the trebs? He wants to get the castle down so he can shove in with the archers, but he could have just pivoted over here. Trebs are, how do we put this? Stationary, immobile? They don't actually move very much. And skirmishers, unless you're talking about Mayan skirmishers, are not going to damage a treb very much. Even packed up with, has 8 armor. Oh, and a little bit of a sneaky run by here. 1 dead villager. But again, is this really scary? 7 units. Is that going to be enough to pull Sitaux back from this army here? Okay. Our Armenian, our quintessential infantry civilization, has said, you know what? I'm going to try archers. And then when that doesn't work, I'm going to try cavalry. Another band. 11. Now, had these 18 units been in the center, it's possible he could have held. Skirmisher versus skirmisher. Would have been not perhaps the most exciting, but the Viper is being pressed back, and his infrastructure, what are we working with here? He's got 6 archery ranges, 2.5 stables, and 1 barracks. Okay, so we're not going to see an infantry switch anytime soon. It looks like Sitaux is at least putting up some kind of defense here on the flanks. Also gets a conversion in the middle of all this, while the Viper's army to the north is also running into a little bit of a roadblock here. Sitaux says, hey, nice high ground, I'll take it. And all of a sudden, 4 of these archery ranges are completely nullified. Anything that pops out of there immediately, if it can't make it into this dead space, oh my goodness, even if it makes it into this dead space, the villagers want a hand in the action. And we are 46 minutes into this game. Sitaux's army count is double the size of his opponents. Now, to be fair, 38 of his army count is skirmishers, but that's okay, because 6 to 20 of the enemy's army count is also foot archers and skirmishers. So action all over the map. So of your archery ranges, of your 8, 4 of them can do nothing. Your light cav with +1 attack and +2 armor also can do nothing. Now, he does have a good amount of food, does the Viper, if he wants to continue on the path of the light cav. But nope. He calls it way too much pressure going straight down the center. The flank attacks did absolutely nothing. I wonder if the Viper would have been better served just globbing up his army straight in the center. Now, he was down army count significantly, but don't forget, good chunk of Sitaux's army is over here as well. We've got 4 arbalesters, a monk play here. He did have a bunch of archer units here. So of the, where is it? Pardon me. Out of the 56, we've got 13 and 4, 17. Let's say a good 20 of it is back home. So, and the rest is, like I said, skirmishers. So it's not confusing why the Viper decided to go light cavalry with its 4 pierce armor against a skirmisher that has 3 melee armor. You know, it's a good counter. You know what else counters that? Champions. You know what else super duper counters it? Champions with 100 freaking HP. So the Viper tried to take the center of the map. Sitaux countered it. He took his stationary trebs and said, nah, I'm just going to maneuver around you with my bombard cannons. Did he actually get arquebus? Ooh. I mean, it's a cool upgrade. He didn't need it because he obviously took the W, but the Viper just tried to poke the sides, tried to get, you know, the right rib cage, the left rib cage, but nah, the uppercut just came right down through the center. Sitaux takes the W. Let's take a look at the stats. We've got arbalesters, skirmishers. Again, not something I expected in this matchup. I thought we were going to get to see waves and waves and waves of Armenian infantry. 9 bombard cannons to 12 light cav. Now, I'm looking at the numbers. Yeah, even on a 1-to-1, this army on the left beats the army on the right. Peak APM for both players, sub 200. Let's take a look at the economies and the militaries. I said economy, and then I went to the military tab. Economy, pretty much identical. Now, if you remove the relic gold that the Viper had from 5 relics, so that means he gathered 4 relics with a 1 free, and Sitaux gathered 1. If you remove the 3,000, it's basically a 15% bigger economy for the Portuguese. And that's, I don't think I saw any Fetorias. I don't think I saw any big giant blue squares on the map. No, and that's before that structure comes in, if even at all. And so the Viper loses control of his relics here. The center loses the entire center. Half his production facility is under enemy occupation, and there's not much he can do with his Army Group North, Army Group South. The pincer movement, the horns that he tried to stab Sitaux with, just crumbled under the defense of our Portuguese, and a valiant defense at that. Who took the gold, the stone, the trash? Okay, so they basically carved up the resources among them. Not these two civilizations, not exactly the most gold-intensive civilizations. Again, the Portuguese, you'd think because they're gunpowder, oh, you need a lot of gold. But that 20% discount does come in handy. That's pretty much, what, 45 gold for every single bombard cannon that you're saving. So you can build 5 for the price of 4, or 6 for the price of 5. I forget exactly what the number is. One conversion. We saw that one conversion. That was that Arbalaster at the end. I thought maybe he would have converted that Mangonel earlier on, but nope. Raising's identical kill count. It looks like Sitaux about 37 kills ahead. And what about Vil count? That's where it's going to be at. Yeah, 18 Vil kills ahead. So Sitaux buffering the winds of enemy attacks here on the southwest, in the northeast. Both players trying to outflank each other, or I guess just flank each other. Sitaux originally with those outposts was a fantastic move with the Arbalesters down south. The Viper tried to block him in with that cart. It was a great, but I think a few too many Vil kills here for our Armenian, because even though infantry is not exactly the most expensive in the game, the upgrades to get it to champions, which is what I thought I was going to see here in this game, is a pretty darn expensive path, especially if you're going to Castle Age. It seems like the Viper was stuck in Castle Age for a while, and that's why I thought he was thinking about a transition to infantry. Again, if you have champions in Castle Age, you're sitting pretty. Even though they don't have the extra 30 HP to take them up to 100, you still do have champions which absolutely shred through skirmishers. But ultimately, castle down, Sitaux takes over the center, and like I said, despite a few shots to the ribs, here and here, it is the center uppercut that comes from our Portuguese that takes down the Viper. GG to both players in a fantastic range game. Again, wasn't really expecting range versus range, but at the end of the day, what a fun game. Both players trying to basically slash at each other. Ultimately, though, the Viper's economy with these forward resources. This is why location of resources is incredibly important. By the way, for both players have their resources in a very forward position. So it does kind of make sense that the player who loses control of those first is going to be the one who taps out. And in this game, it is the Viper who loses the center, loses his Army Group South, Army Group North, loses control of his secondary, tertiary resources, taps out, lives to fight another day. Sitaux takes the W, but GG to both players. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips and make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so that you're notified of my latest uploads.